Well, my name's Pastor Adam. I'm the senior pastor at Cleveleys Community Church. I have with me today one of our wonderful members, Gary. How are you doing, Gary, mate? You all right?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. Gary's just going to share some of his story with us today. So maybe start with a bit of your background, Gary, mate.
Well, when I was younger, you mean, yes?
Yeah.
Well, I was born up in church as a young lad, but when I was age 10, I kind of left it and then went dormant, and through my years until I was 39, did I come back into the church. Can't really say much more, really. I mean, I wasn't a Christian as such. I was a Christian, but I wasn't what I knew I should be.
Yeah. So you was brought up in church at an early age, and you kind of came in and out of it, sort of thing. So tell us a little bit about how you came to faith in Jesus Christ, when you actually stepped from just going to a church every now and again to actual into relationship with Jesus.
Well, no, we moved from one house to another because we couldn't afford where we stayed, and it was during that period I was a motor mechanic for myself, and it was a preacher from the USA who came with his car for me to repair. And I got to know him, a person called Doug Lance. He was teaching at Keele University to the students. And when I looked in the back of his car, he got these pamphlets, and he must have seen me looking at it. And he said, well, he said, if you want to know more about that pamphlet, he said, you can come to my house for a meeting, he said. There will be students there, he said, but you can come along if you want, you're quite welcome. And I said, no, you're all right, I'm not worried, Anyway, I repaired his car and away he went. And the next time I met him with his car, he said, have you thought about coming to one of my meetings? I said, and he kept, saying things about Jesus Christ and that. And I said, well, the wife's a Christian. I said, but, she goes to church. I said, but really, I said, I haven't been to church for 30 odd years or more. And he said, well, why don't you come to a meeting? I said, oh, okay, then I'll come. And I thought, well, I'll go and keep him happy, And when I got there, I realised through what he was saying to these pupils at Keele University, I thought, well, I can understand that now. I thought, I'm doing something wrong. And after the end of the meeting, he prayed for me, and I found that I had to give my life to Jesus.
Wow.
And so I did it there and then. And then I just went away. And then that was it. And so I started going to church with my wife, and from then on it just increased inside me.
Wow, brilliant, fantastic. So since that happened, since you gave your life to Jesus Christ and you started to see that relationship develop and blossom with God, with you and your wife, since being a Christian, has Jesus done anything for you in regards to something miraculous, whether it be a healing or a provision or anything that's happened in your life since you've been a Christian? You think that was just amazing what God did there?
Yes, well, it was a period when we were still at this country house where I was working. I did at the time have arthritis in both hips and the bottom of my spine, and I couldn't work. So I hadn't been working for a couple of years prior to that. I was on benefits as such, and the house we were able to pay for it with the money from the previous property. So that was why we went there. But I used to do mechanicing about 2 or 3 hours a day when I got myself worked up, get a bit more money in. And it was during that period, while we were living there, that this fellow came down one day and he wanted his engine overhauled in a Mini. So I took the engine out and I got it on a little stand with 4 wheels on it to wheel it out to my van, because I got to take it down to the repair shop to have it rebored and stuff. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that? I got a chain left to get out of the car, But when I got the chain to the vehicle, I couldn't swing it into the back of the van because it doesn't work. And so I put it on the ground. And I went to Judy and said, I've got problems. I said, I don't know how I'm going to get this job done for this fellow. I look stupid, you know. She says, don't worry, have your lunch, she said, and then somebody will come down and help you, you know. And it was while I was on my lunch, I thought, yeah, somebody's got to come down eventually. But anyway, I went outside, and for some reason or other, I bent down and grabbed the engine by each end and just picked it up and put it in the vehicle.
Wow.
But it didn't weigh anything.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe what had happened.
Mm.
And when I took it down to the repairers, I told them, I said, it's 4 of it in there. I said, I put that in myself. He laughed. I thought, well, yeah, you can laugh. But it happened.
Mm.
And I was told later by Doug Lance that an angels had come down and done that work for me.
Wow.
And I believed it.
Mm.
And I thought, wow. You know, of course, that built my faith up quite a lot more. And then things started to look a bit better for me. And eventually we were able to get away from this house. And we bought a house which we wanted to start as a guest house. And it was the first few months that I was there, I wasn't working really hard because of my arthritis. And the fellow that I knew quite some years back came to see me, and he said, I'm in the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International. And I said, who are them? He said, well, they're a Christian body. He said, there's no denomination, anyone can come. He said, we've got a meeting this weekend. He said, at the Grand Hotel in Hanley. Yeah, nice lunch, he said. Then you go into the auditorium. He said, we have guest speakers coming there, and sometimes they do healing, whatever. And I thought, no, I said, don't worry about it. And I didn't bother to go. Anyway, he asked me again some months later, and I said, go on, I'll come with you. And I thought, well, I got a good meal anyway, you know. So, in a sense, I was, you know, just going along to keep him company. Why? Because I was a Christian. I didn't understand why I was doing it anyway. Anyway, I went along with him, and I was in the auditorium after the meal. I went right to the top, out of the way, sit on the top there, and I was sitting there, and the speaker was a good speaker, and he came on, and then he said, you know, we've got this American now, and he came from America in San Diego somewhere, and he started preaching and healing that, and it's one thing I never believed in, so I don't know why, but I didn't believe in healing at all. I thought, well, you know, it's just a load of baloney. Put his hand in his head and they fall down on the floor. I thought, no. So, and I was actually in pain. I couldn't sit in a chair that long. And I was aching all over, hurting real bad. And as he come towards the end of the meeting, he said, there's still somebody out there, he said, who needs to come forward for healing. And I thought, well, it ain't me. And I was hanging onto my chair. And in the end, he said, well, I'm going to close the meeting. He said, before I do, he said, this person still has to come out, he said, for healing, he said. He said, if you don't come out, I'll have to shout your name. And I thought, well, it's got to be somebody else. Anyway, it was almost like my chair moved and I was getting up. Although I didn't want to, I was trying to get back in my chair. And I walked along between the aisle, and because there was no stairs going down to the auditorium, I got halfway down there, and suddenly it went like that. Next minute, I felt this draining from the head downwards, right down to my feet. And then all of a sudden, it was like being filled with a wonderful feeling.
Wow.
Pain went.
Amazing. Wow. Praise God. Well,
that was 47 years ago.
I've
I've never had any problems since.
Amazing. Absolutely great. Well, thank you very much, Gary, for sharing that wonderful testimony and the wonderful story of what God's done in your life. And I'm sure it's blessed me. I'm sure it'll bless those who will be watching. Thank you very much, brother.
Yeah.